All right, we're back again for another episode in the Counselor's Corner and also hanging out with Herb. Um, and tonight's subject is Are You Relationship Ready? Part two. It was definitely necessary to come back with the part two after the back and forth last week, and it got deep, and people were telling their truth, and it was very interesting. So tonight, shout out to Sandra, um, Priscilla, uh, Prophetess Alicia Tucker. Thanks for joining me in the Counselor's Corner. Richie Campbell, what's going on, Richie Ray, Marcia. So let me read this description. Are You Relationship Ready? Part two. Well, after last week's show, we had a lot of back and forth about this subject matter, where the essential talking points were lifestyles, what kind do you want? Are you ready to sacrifice? And three, honesty. Are you being honest with yourself? So it made sense to come back this week to discuss some of the essential talking points that came out of last week's show, such as, excuse me, how soon do you know when dating someone and it's not going to work? So basically, you know, um, you got to have a feeling to know, like, okay, it's a certain point in time when you say to yourself, this is not gonna cut it. This is not cutting the mustard. And whether you do it or end it, that depends on you and that individual. Number two, dependency within relationship. Do you want it? And number three, do you feel that men try to break women they date? Meaning kind of break them down mentally, and I guess more so try to break them down to maybe be submissive or just trying to get into, I mean, I guess get inside their psyche, whatever. So those are some of the things that came out of last week's show. So feel free to call in. The number is in the description 605-313-5375 268 28. And it's better when you call in because we need your feedback. It's fine to type in your responses, but I like to hear your voices. Ramona Wiggins, thanks for joining me tonight in the Counselor's Corner as well. So um, here we have it. Now, let me see, do I got any counselor concerns? Nanika, thanks for joining me tonight. All right, one of my concerns is I just posted a little while ago. We know that the big day is coming, big turkey day, Thanksgiving day. People, please, 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 with those plates, they need to be approved. I just did a post. They need to be approved because some of the things the last few years I've been seeing, and I don't know. I know as we get older, some of our parents are, passing away, and grandparents. I think on Anwar's show, he had mentioned that, you know, is it this? Does the generation, these Generation Xers and all those other names they have for it, do they really know how to prepare a meal? And it's showing for some the damn objects that I see on those plates. So if you can, please hide me from those posts. I have no desire. We already know what most people are going to have. We already know the turkey, macaroni, and cheese, dressing. If you call it stuffing, then I already know your shit ain't tasting right. Um, Sweet potato pie and all that stuff. Every plate, I ain't gonna say it looks identical, but it has the same thing. So there's no need to post. We don't need your play by play. Everything you done Thanksgiving Eve up until Thanksgiving dinner. So hide me from those. All right, that's that. Who else? Yolanda Bowles, thanks for joining. Ebony Swanson, thanks for joining. And we have somebody that, hey, Sandra. I don't know if you listen to the phone in the a computer because I hear a lot of feedback. So something got to give. You got to mute something. I hear some feedback in the background.
Yeah, just turn your volume
Yeah.
down. It's the YouTube feed plan. There you go.
All right. So, Ebony Swanson, thanks for joining. Eddie Porter, thanks for joining. So, again, are you relationship ready? It's a lot. People think they're ready. People want to be ready. People know that they don't want to end up alone. So, but it's a process to get there. And we're going to talk some more about those processes because the ultimate goal is you would like everybody to have a nice, sound relationship because I've said it many times. There's no changing in the community. There's no changing in the city. It all starts in the home. When you have better homes and better relationships, relationships is everything in life. It's everything from work, any interaction, you got to have positive relationships. When you don't have positive relationships, you have dysfunctions and crime and all that types of stuff that's killing our community, and not just ours, society. So that's something we got to work on. All right, so I'm gonna pass the mic on over to Herb. What was your take from last week's show, and moving forward? What's going on, Herb?
It was the epic show. So let me start off by, saying first things first. I personally, want to extend my thanks and my gratitude to Jamil for being open and honest about her life, her situations, and her experiences. And, I know personally that it's not easy for people to open up strangers. And for that, I'm going to send her a $25 Visa gift card. I want people to understand that me speaking on what she was talking about, granted they were her personal experiences, was not an attack on her. It was just a response to her story. Just because someone is speaking about their experiences doesn't mean that they are immune from being critically spoken of, or their experiences are, pardon me, their experiences are immune from being critically spoken of. And I think we have to understand that in order for us to move on to the next step in life or the next phase or whatever it is, you have to open up those wounds, clean them out, let them heal. Because those are the lessons that you learn from and that will guide you on to the next phase in life. So I'm not without empathy. I'm not without sympathy. I will call out nonsense where I deem it necessary for people to understand that, hey, look, get off of that horse, stop riding it. It's dead. You have to find another one. You have to move on to another spot in life where you can go from. It's like a song, there's like lyrics in the song that Billy Joe said, and often I quote music, and people that listen to the show probably are keenly aware that he said the only thing that you can call your own are your mistakes. And I firmly believe that because everything else somebody has taught you. But your mistakes are the only things that you yourself do that teach you more than anything else. So, on the heels of that, I just want to say this. Women, and it seems more so than men, that they have a difficult time accepting things, particularly those things that oppose how they feel. We often hear the mantra of accept me how I am. But I have to ask, what is the male equivalent? You look at what women have in terms of helping them physically, whether it's waist shapers, synthetic hair, makeup, the list goes on and on. There's a multi-million dollar business out there to help women feel and look their best. Whereas men have very little.
I don't know. Hold on. I don't know about that. The game is changing now with some of these dudes with these fake damn beards and edge ups and hairdo. It's almost getting to the point like they go into the salon. When you used to go to the barber shop, you get a nice cut, line up, and get your beard shaped up, and you roll out. Now these, I don't know what the hell be going on at these barber shops now. It's like it's crazy.
I've seen that, and I'm gonna tell you exactly what it is. It's nonsense.
Mm.
I've seen the video of that mess, and I'm just thinking, do guys really do this mess? And I think it's twofold. One, I think it's the continued attack on the masculine principle, and women really don't have to endure anything like that because society is catering to them. If you look at the way school is structured, and I also listen to and I mentioned his name before, Black Gnostic speaks. He speaks about how the school system is predicated to teaching women or teaching to the female element as opposed to just people, period. And this is why there's a small but vocal minority of people who are actually calling for the separation of schools, at least up until the high school level, between boys and girls, because boys learn differently. Boys are active, girls are not. When they started cutting back on recess, you started to see an increase of diagnosis of ADHD, particularly among boys, and more importantly, particularly among African American boys. So they start to medicate these boys, and then they wonder why when these boys get to be young adults and into their early 20s, they can't function. And that's part of the reason why. But that's that's another topic for another show, and I'm sure down the pipe that'll be a discussion.
We do have Sandra on here. So Sandra, you still with us?
Yes, I am.
So what's your take on this subject matter? Are you relationship ready?
I want to be, but
Mhm.
I don't. The requirements that I have
I would love to hear them.
is okay. Well, the requirements that I have is, I mean, I don't. Okay, if I compare my time with my grandmother and grandfather's time that raised me, they was relationship ready because it was one didn't do nothing without the other. And today, it seemed like it's not the building point. It's you don't we, men and women do not want to build together. Men got theirs, women got theirs, and I don't think that. And I'm talking about because I fall in that category. I want to make sure that I'm secure, so I'm going to make sure I'm secure without a man. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I hear you. Everybody should have their own, but I think that's when you got to come to the table and let the person know where your shortcomings are and work together. But the problem is, I think I did a post last night. We're too afraid to let let people know our vulnerabilities going into relationships in the
Exactly.
most part, because everybody wants to be, you want to be that lady, you want to be the man, and you don't want to, you want to seem like you have everything together. But sooner or later, that mask comes off. You only can keep a mask on for so long. Sooner or later, you're going to sweat it off, or it's going to freeze up, it's going to start peeling off, and the truth comes out. So therefore, you just have to let people know. Tell people in a minute. Nah, I can't cook. I can survive. I can eat, but I ain't. Don't think it's gonna be. Oh, you cook one day, I cook another day. Your ass will be going to bed with hunger pains, waiting on my meal. Now I can get a meal, but don't think you gonna sit back, have your feet kicked up, and I won't be in the kitchen stirring up something. That ain't my thing.
Right.
And I'll be honest
And
with
that's the
that.
whole idea is what you do best, you do best. And what I do best, I do best. And do I want to put at this point? Do I want to put that in the hands of a man? Because I don't know. You know what I mean? I know that I can take care of me and my household, and I can pay the bills, and I can do this, and I can do that. Now, do I? That's what I'm saying. Do I want to say, okay, no?
And I think each of us bring some deficits to the relationships. And I think the people who talk like they can do it all, that sometimes that's suspect. I mean, they may have done it sometimes, but that doesn't mean they do it well. And to me, don't be talking shit about what you can do unless you do it well. And I think a lot of people get that twisted.
Oh, that's you, David, talking?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. No, I'm not saying that I would not desire a man to be in my life that will help me do, and we do, and we accomplish together. But what I'm saying is that honestly, I can take care of me. I can take care of my household. I just want somebody to love me for me, and we build together.
Yeah, so exactly. You can take care of your household, but are you happy taking care? Are you missing a
No,
piece?
no,
So you're saying you're not happy taking care of your household because
I'm
you
not happy doing it alone.
okay, that makes sense.
All right, Sandra, let me jump in here. Let me see if I can speak to your earlier point you made about your the people who raised you and their generation. I, I'll keep mentioning this man's name. I don't know what his legal name is, and I encourage people. Really, I really do, and I can't stress this enough. Go to YouTube and write this down. It's BGSIMBOR. Black Gnostic speaks inward, and inward stands for introspective black male. Uh, I can't remember the rest. I'm sorry, it'll lose me right now. But he talks about the very comment that you just made, and he said the difference between the baby boomers generation, Generation X, and the millennial generation, Generation Z, is that they were raised to be husbands and wives. And let me explain to you, and let me explain to the audience what that means. That means that a man or a woman can line up 100 people, irrespective of how they look, what they did for work, et cetera, and they could plug them in the house and they would go and do what their respective genders did. So that means the man will go out and work, earn, be a good provider, good protector. Same thing with the female. She will be able to cook, clean, rear the children, and it will all on the same accord. That no longer is the truth. And you mentioned something about your list. And shout out to Dr. Tia San Johnson, pardon me. He's an associate professor at Africanist Male Studies out at Fresno State. He's a gentleman that I recently friended on Facebook, and I bumped into him through Black Gnostic Speaks video. So, and he spoke about this. He said when he asked women about their list, their arms shot up and they had an extensive list. When he asked the males, and these are, keep in mind, they're college age students, the males had no list. And I think that list is the biggest impediment for women to find a suitable mate. Because in order for most women to find a suitable mate, that man has to match everything on her list. And if he doesn't, he's out.
Well, you know what? I'm at the age. I'm 50 years old, right? So I know there's no perfect individual, and I know that everything in anything is gonna take work. But the thing that I find the most difficult is the fact that men men are secure in their own apartment. Women are secure in their own. So how can you bring the two together? How can you like say, okay, we gotta it, why pay two cable bills? Why pay two rents? Why pay two um home phone bills or insurances? Why we can't just put it all together? And that's the thing that both of us is afraid of because I pay my bills. Are you gonna pay yours? You know what I'm saying? And I'm going back to my grandmother and grandfather because my grandmother was the provider. No, I'm sorry. My grandmother was to make sure that the household was done. My grandfather was the one that made sure that everything was there to make sure the household stuff was done. My grandmother cooked, cleaned, she took care of us and him, and I just don't see that together. My grandfather had a relationship outside my grandmother and had a baby. But do you know what? They didn't separate. My grandmother accepted that because that's what he did. So that strongness, that togetherness is not here today with us. Listen, you fuck around on me, you gone.
Well, you know why that is because
Because it is.
everything is everything is for show. Everything has to be put on social media so everyone can. That's how people express themselves, and that's another reason why I came out. You know, I got to pull the plug. That's another reason why I came out with No Friday Foolishness to use as a tool to journal to yourself and to write about some of these thoughts or things that's going on. But now people go on social media and they, change their relationship status or they're going in on their man or their woman. You can't do that. You can't do that. If you're taking an L in your home, you got to work through it. You got to work that's not meant for everybody to know. Now, you might have somebody that you trust and they can kind of be that voice of reason for you and tell you, nah, dog, don't even do it, man. You got to work it out, or they kind of talk you off the ledge. But a lot of people, they just got to air it out. They got to make this shit like Atlanta Housewives and all of that stuff so everybody can know it, so they can get likes and comments because they want to be accepted. Maybe because maybe they're not being accepted in their relationship. So they use that platform. Just my take.
To your point, Sandra, if anyone has not seen the movie Fences, please watch the movie. It details and it specifically goes through the infidelity that Denzel's character engages in, and it speaks to what Sandra just spoke about, having a child outside of the marriage. And just watch how that all unfolds.
Oh, I watched that. I think I did. That it was the wife. He had a child outside. He had a son. And he had a child outside the marriage. I do. And they live. Wait, Faces, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I saw that. And regardless, though, it happened, and in that situation, regardless, it happened, and she was forced to accept that, and then she was forced to take care of the child because the mother died.
Yes, that's true. But to what your point, you're asking why things are as they are is because nowadays women have the option of staying or going, and most leave. If you look at the divorce rate for marriages is about 80%, with the vast majority of those being filed by women, not men. So it's not the men who are leaving the relationships, it's women who are leaving the relationships. So in order for us to address anything on why relationships aren't working, we have to ask and answer two basic questions. The first one being, one, what is the purpose of marriage? And two, are you ready for the modern day marriage? The answer to the first question is children. The reason for marriage is not love, is not wealth building, it's to rear children. And this is gonna probably draw some consternation from people, but it's not all that other stuff. Believe me, it's children. Children are the focus on the marriage.
Marriage has been all along. To raise a family.
Correct.
That's what I believe marriage has been. That's the reason. But today's reason is we have like all these, women is more independent, and men doesn't have the power they had back then. They doesn't have the power to say, okay, honey, you stay home and I take care of the household. They don't have that power anymore.
Well, that's twofold. Let me see if I can redirect where you're going just a little bit. You're saying men don't have the power. When you say power, define that.
When I say power, when my grandmother and grandfather was raising us, my grandfather was the sole provider, and my grandmother was the sole take care of her. But the thing that happened is they did things together. It wasn't, I can go to my grandmother and say, oh, Ma, can I do this? Without her going to my grandfather saying, oh, can I let her do this?
And do you understand why that is?
Because they had more power. The men brought home the income, the women took care of the household.
That seems the likely answer, but it isn't. And I'm going to tell you why.
Okay, go ahead.
Women were socialized by their mothers and their other female relatives to follow a certain pattern of behavior. And once that pattern became broken, particularly in the Black Native American, and this is a new term I'm going to throw out there, Black Native Americans. And let me segue for a moment. Dr. Claude Anderson calls us, descendants of slaves, an exceptional people. And that's because our history in this country is studied the world over, because never has there been a subjugated and oppressed class of slaves that have risen up to fight for their freedom. So that's the new term that I'm going to be using, is Black Native Americans. That's because Black Native Americans' structure has been broken. So it's no longer necessary for a female to seek permission and be granted permission to do what she chooses. And if you look at the way our family structure is, it's not headed by the man. It's headed by the woman.
I agree, 100%.
Now,
that's the problem.
Now you can be that, even though, as Sandra said, the power has lessened and women are more independent, they're on the rise, they're more, educated, they're climbing the pay scale. But if you have a man that can walk his walk and talk that talk and walk that walk, that constitute for you to follow him. If you know
Right.
He always says what he's going to, if he say he's going to do something, he going to get it done. Then, that's leadership in itself. And he's leading by example. So you do have a lot of men that put that, have that, those skills and put it out there like that. So it depends. You have to be open to it. Now, some people, some women just not open to anything. They just got caught up in this new age thing that they don't even know. Sometimes they have a hell of a catch right there. But some way, somehow, they get talked into blowing it.
Right. And I agree with you 100%, David, because the man is designed by God, and I don't want to get into no religious type of stuff, but to lead, you know what I'm saying? If you look at the Bible, it's not too many women leaders. It's majority men leaders. The only woman leader really that I could say was Eve. She led her husband to deceive whatever. But men was designed by God to lead. And when today, and I'm talking personal because today I got me. I got my family. You know what I'm saying? And it's gonna take a hell of a man to come in here and convert me.
It's gonna take a hell of a man.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I don't want to cut you off. I want you to put your thought.
Okay, to allow him to share with me or us, for us to do. Okay.
Now the question becomes, one, when you say us, who is us? And
me
two,
and him.
Okay. Now
me
the question
and him and my sister now, actually, because it ain't.
And your sister.
Yeah, because I don't have any kids.
Oh, okay. Just so I'm clear, what do you mean by when you say my sisters? Are they residing? Do you have female relatives residing?
I've been taking care of my sister for the last 21 years, and I don't have any children, but she's my family. That is in my household. So when I say us, I'm speaking that she's not a child, but she's with me. And I'm not gonna, a man gotta accept her. But I mean, I don't even think that we're talking about that as a point of reference, because when I said us, I mean me, him is building something, wanting something different. Wanting to have. I want a nice house. I want to be able to, I want us to, like, me and a man to, like, be in the world. You know what I'm saying? Me and him against the world. And that is very hard to find today.
And I know.
Okay, let me go ahead, Dave.
And I know you said, I guess you've been taking care of your sister, and that's a, honorable thing for you to do. That's what family should do. Pull together. But that is a vital point that a man would have to come in, and you say it will take a hell of a man, and it may take someone with patience and understanding and look at your good points to say, man, she's a caring woman that, she could probably, place her in some facility or, or something like that, but she's being old school, nurturing, and decided to, fulfill that obligation. Or you could have someone like, that's a grown person around here. They doing this or doing that, or somebody always complaining about every little thing. So, it's a process to fulfill or to communicate about.
But what's the difference in having children?
Yeah, and
You know what I'm
that's
saying?
a big issue too to some guys, depending on the
Well,
age of the children, whatever the case is. So all of this stuff has to be talked about and communicated.
Right.
when you ask what's the difference between your situation and children, are you speaking specifically that children that come of that union or children that are just external of the man?
Both. Because
Okay.
I mean, if he have children, I need to accept them, right?
No. Hold on. Let me explain what I meant by my previous comment. If the man does not have children, and you said yourself you don't have children,
Right.
and you two come together, there's no problem because he doesn't have to deal with anything that's already that already comes with you.
Well, it is a problem with me.
No. Your current situation isn't that example. Your current situation is of the second example, which means you're bringing something else with you. And this goes back to what we said in a prior show. Is that situation conducive to what that man wants? You're asking. And in essence, you're demanding that any man that comes with you has to deal and accept what it is that you have. That's why you said it has to be an exceptional man. And there's nothing wrong with having that standard. The question is, are you willing to have that same stipulation placed upon you?
Well, that's the whole thing that I'm talking about when I referred to my grandmother and my grandfather, and my grandfather went out on her and had a baby. She had to accept that if she loved her husband, right?
No, she didn't have to. She had the option of leaving. She chose to stay.
Okay, she didn't have to, but she did because this lady was my aunt. Do you understand? That was my daddy's sister. And she was known to be my daddy's sister. So she was known to be my aunt, the same as my aunt that is my mom and my grandmother and my grandfather's sister. My aunt, she was known as my aunt the same. So there was no difference. There was no separation. I don't know what the problem was prior to that, but when I was born, they was probably in their 20s or whatever. But that was my aunt. Yeah. Do you understand? That was the same as my daddy's sister, Aunt Wilma. That was the same as my daddy's Uncle Walt. I didn't know any different. I'm pretty sure they went through some stuff, but I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that was by design because they kept you where a child should be, and they kept you out of adult affairs. Nowadays,
they was grown by the time I was born, though. You know what I'm saying?
No. Yes, but what I'm saying is this: nowadays, you have parents, and I use that term loosely. You have parents that are incorporating their kids into adult decisions, and when you do that, you are no longer making an adult decision. You're making a child decision.
Because you're making it. Adult?
Well, no, I'm just, I'm speaking generically because the adult should be making decisions based on what the adult needs. Because
if I have a sister, let me tell you, I got a brother that I knew nothing. I knew about him, but I knew where he was, and that was, man. He's 60 and I'm 50. Okay, I found my brother because I heard them talk about him as a child. I found him because I thought that I should know my brother, and I thought my brother should know me and any family history because I'm here. So I don't see why that should have been a secret. I don't see why I should not. If I had kids, and my kids had kids, or my kids' father had kids, why they shouldn't know each other. It's all different. It's so different today. So how could you be relationship ready if you don't even know? You know what I'm saying?
No, I do. And to your point, another gentleman that I listen to is his name is Kevin Samuels, and I mentioned him before. He's a style expert. And one of the things that he talks about, and like I said, I want to commend Jamila for this, is that Black people need to seek out therapy because we have a lot of damage that comes with us.
I agree.
So in order for anybody to be physically and mentally ready for inviting somebody else into their life, they have to be situated with where they are in their own life.
So, where are they going to get therapy from? Who are they going to seek out therapy from?
You can start by asking. You can start at social services. Ask social services for the recommendation to therapists and start there. Those of you who are in the church, ask your pastor, ask your teacher to recommend somebody that engages in therapy. And understand, therapy does not mean you are crazy or you're going insane. It means that you have reached a point in your life where you need to speak about some things to get them out of your system so you're not carrying them around as an internal burden. Because a lot of us, and let's face it, a lot of us can't deal effectively with somebody else because we can't master our own stuff.
Exactly.
But so if you can't master dealing with your own stuff, if you can't master being alone without feeling lonely, then you need to address that issue. I'm not saying you need to go seek therapy, but I am suggesting that you need to understand how to function being alone, because when you can function being alone, you are fearful of opening up. Somebody's got their feet up.
It's probably going to turn it down.
If you want to turn your background music down or background volume down, we won't get the feedback.
It might be my phone. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
And the reason why I said where are you going to get therapy from, because we already know that most people, it takes something to open up and get comfortable with the person. So most therapists, unless you find some, and it depends on who the individual is. Say, for example, if you're a Black person, hopefully, you may feel more comfortable opening up to a African American or a Black therapist, but probably those numbers are so limited or they got a tremendous wait list, then you end up saying, well, I'm not going to go to this person or go to that person, because it's a lot of mistrust with us as well. So it's something that you got to be open to and be ready to commit to. And, you can't dance around it. You got to be ready to put everything on the table. And I think that's our fault. Then when you look at the church, where that's a place that you can get healing, but in this day and age with all the stuff that go on there, some people, they may go to church, but they're going because that's just part of their culture or their upbringing, but they look at all the different dynamics and things that happen in there. They say, oh, ain't no way in hell I'll confess anything to him. I just go because I was raised in the church, but I'm not subscribing to any of this thing. So we still it's a lot of times we run into a lot of impasses.
Go ahead, Sandra.
Go ahead.
And if you find yourself unable to get into a therapist's office, create a support group. with the advent of social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and what's the other one? Snapchat. Create a support group where y'all can meet once a week, once every 2 weeks, or once a month, and y'all sit around and y'all discuss these things. That's what the barbershop was for men predominantly. The barbershop was the one place that black men could actually congregate and talk about things. And believe it or not, sometimes talking is more therapeutic than anything, because you're able to get out what it is that's bottled up inside, and nobody's there to judge you. And I think that's one of humanity's biggest flaws, is afraid of being judged. This is why a lot of people who want to get people to do something, they will try to shame them into doing something.
Well,
so
well, that's when people, that catchphrase start coming in. Don't judge me, or whatever the case is. And another one of them terminologies that's overused, and that people are going to judge you. They're going to have their opinions. They're going to have their feedback without maybe even having any facts to it. But that's just life. That's just something you got to deal with. But I think we do have Marcia on here, so I do want to bring her in and let her add or give her feedback toward the subject matter or something that resonated in her head. Hey, Marcia.
Hi. I have a different spin on relationships. For me, the dating scene has been quite a challenge since I'm a widow who was married for 35 years. And I'm a little reluctant to allow myself to become vulnerable for fear of being misunderstood by a man, to the fact that he may feel that I'm needy. So I'm a little guarded when it comes to feelings. What would be your advice?
Oh, well, what is it? I had this written out. What is your list that you personally seek out? And let's not even look for a mate. Let's take that off the table. What are you looking for in terms of you enjoying an evening out with somebody?
And enjoying a date. Getting to know that person and them to know me. I try not to immediately have feelings for someone because I'm guarded when it comes to being hurt. And
everybody is. You're not alone in that. Everyone is.
Yeah. Right. And build up this tolerance where, listen, I got this, I got me. You know what I'm saying? We build up, women, me personally, I build up this tolerance where, I'm not going to love you unless I know you love me.
That I don't know how that. So basically, you're gonna withhold feelings until that person comes out and says, you know what, Sandra, I think I'm falling in love with you, and you may have already loved them, and that could have been.
No, I'm not. I'm not gonna give. Yeah, you're right. That's just what society has done. That's what society has done to me.
Yeah, because it doesn't like it's a magnet, like you both start loving each other at the same time. Usually it's someone who puts that out there first. Another person may be feeling the same way, but both of you are like at an impasse, or like, I'm not gonna say it, because if I say it, then they should say, okay, love. People get afraid of that. So we got a whole bunch of fears and drawbacks that kind of hold you back in relationships.
Right. But I find being an older woman, it's just hard to date, period. And I don't know if it's because I am not one of these women that's constantly in a social setting or whatever. But I found for a few men that I have dated that I don't know. I don't know if I'm too open or I'm not open enough, but I just, I know I have a wall up when it comes to being hurt, and I don't think I reflect that or show that when I meet someone. But
you do. Want me to tell you how you do?
How?
Because you're not open. A wall physically keeps you from being open, so you don't have to say it. You behave it.
Really?
There's two forms of communication: verbal and nonverbal. And David posted about this, the 55-38-7 rule. If you don't know what that is, go research it, go look it up. You don't have to tell me you are uncomfortable if I can read you. I will know that you are uncomfortable by how you conduct yourself. This is why a good salesperson is a good salesperson, because a good salesperson reads his or her target.
Okay, but suppose someone's reading could be totally wrong. I may give off that vibe. Huh?
That's the risk that they run.
I may give off that vibe that I'm uncomfortable or whatever, but I really am not. But that's what they're reading into the scenario.
But your original question was how do I meet people, or how do I become less vulnerable?
Yeah.
The question is, you can't become less vulnerable until you open up. Now understand what opening up means. Opening up means that you are honest. And if you want somebody else to be honest, what do you need to do?
Well, okay. As far as the honesty thing is, I don't mind being honest, but I feel like initially when you're meeting someone, to me, that's a time in getting acquainted with one another and kind of like keep the conversations light. I have opened up to someone, and I kind of felt that in the end that they used it against me.
Right. And that's the risk that anyone runs, no matter who you are, no matter what it is that you do. And I'll use a businessman, for example. Let's say somebody comes around to a wealthy person and they want them to invest in their business. That person has to make a decision about their money. Do they want to invest in this individual because they think this individual has a good idea, or do they want to invest in this individual because they think this individual is a good person? And it goes back to what I just said about a salesperson. What does a good salesperson does? They read people. So we hear often about investors who invest in bad businesses. Yes, they do, but why? Sometimes they invest in bad businesses because the idea wasn't sound. They didn't vet the idea. Or sometimes they invest in the person, they didn't vet that person well enough. So we all do that. You name me an individual who has not invested in a bad person, whether it's time or some other resource, and I will show you a person that's never lived. I'm sure David has his examples. I certainly have more than enough examples to go around. But those examples and those experiences have shaped me who I am. Now, I don't waste time. Me?
Right.
I'm going to show you what's in my poker hand. I'm going to show you everything that's in my poker hand because I don't believe in wasting time.
Thanks from the gate, because I don't have to pretend to be nobody that I am. I am who I am.
Who I am. That's true. And I have found out too, and maybe this is not true for all men, but I kind of feel like sometimes when women tend to be guarded because They could be vulnerable, but once you let that vulnerability be known to a guy, I find sometimes they use that as their tool to manipulate the woman.
Well, let me tell women how to best address being manipulated. Ask them about their previous relationships. Let them tell you if they're manipulators or not. Same thing for the men. Ask the person if your goal is to date. And when I say date, I don't mean just go out on a casual outing, fast food, have conversation, have light discussion, and y'all both going about your way. If your intent is to be with the other exclusively and mutually, ask them about their past relationships. Ask them, if I were to speak to your ex-girlfriend, what would you say your worst quality is? And if they start dancing like Fred Astaire or they start dancing like Ginger Rogers, you know to get rid of them because they're not being honest.
Well,
I said before. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, let me come in at it. Well, we know that, we live in a day and age that people say, oh, that was the past. I don't want to, I'm not going to bring that up. But that has everything to do with moving forward, is being able to address some of your past shortcomings. And I do want to talk about that 55-38-7 rule, just to explain, instead of having them looking up, well, 55% of it is your body language. So when Herbert said about reading, you can tell by somebody's body language what they're conveying, or if they're open or closed, or, it's just certain things. We know the signs, like certain things is a dead giveaway and that's why people always ask, even if it's a child or your mate, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? You're looking at their face and you're seeing something like, and something is going on, or you may see the tapping of the knees, or, the clenching of the fist, stuff like that is, dead giveaways. But then that's 55% of communication. Then there's the 38%, which is like pretty much your tone, your voice, the way that you express and get things out there, that sometimes it's appropriate, sometimes it's not. Then the 7% is what you actually verbalize, like stuff that you say and convey. So if you're not saying anything, and I know, Marcia, you have said, well, what if that person is off? Well, if your 7% was a little higher, then they would know directly what you're feeling. But if you hold it back, they only can go by that 55.
Mm-hmm. This is why I tell people, be open, be honest. If you can't be honest with yourself, it's impossible. I don't care who says what. It is impossible to be honest with anyone else. And I say this, and I'll stick to it to the day I pass, at least to the day I don't exist in the physical. You can't lie to me. You can only lie to yourself. Let me say it again. You cannot lie to me. You can only lie to yourself. And people will say, well, how do you know somebody's telling the truth? It's like Rex said in the movie Gone with the Wind. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. If you're not hitching your wagon up to my horses, I don't care how you feel. I don't care what you believe. I don't care what you want, because you're not going my way. So if you want to go my way, guess what you're going to do? You're going to tell me. You're going to tell me what you want. You're going to tell me what you need. And I'm going to tell you, you know what, dear? I respect your honesty. I respect what it is that you want, but I can't help you. You know why? Because we're being honest. And that right there fosters a relationship. Because you're going to say, you know what? I can't do a lot with this guy, but I know if I go to him for some advice, or if I go to her for some advice, or I just want somebody to hang out with, we go to the movies, we sit down, we have a glass of wine, we go out, we have a bite to eat. That's how you foster relationship. That's how you start to date, is you come to a commonality of what you want, and more importantly, what you don't want.
But, you know what? I agree with you 100%. But the initial date or the initial anything, contact or whatever, is not that way.
Okay, hold on. Let me set you up. Let me set.
Sound like a part 3 coming up.
Because it's not.
Really tell you a lot about me. You know what I'm saying?
Hold on.
Over time.
Hold on. Why doesn't it go like that?
Because most of the time, well, for me, most of the time the guys I meet, like I said, I try to keep the conversation like the initial. So I get a feeling that it's more between us. Now, for me, I mean, where you honest and open, it's a lot of guys I've met who aren't honest and open. And
hold on. Let me cut you off. And what did I say?
You find that out on the initial date.
No. That's precisely what I'm talking about. If they're not going to be open and honest with you, you have to be willing to get up and walk away.
But you don't know that initially. No, you don't know that on the first date. You don't know that I'm honest and open on the first date. And that's true.
We're going to have to do a part 3, Dave.
What'd you say? I already knew this was brewing for a part 3.
Reason, I mean, when I first initially meet someone, I like the quality time. I like to get to know that person, and the conversation's right. I mean, I feel like this. When I go deep, it's because I'm starting to have feelings for that person.
Right.
And until I get to that point, I feel like I'm a great conversationalist. And I have a wonderful personality.
Listen, ladies, listen. That's only dictated by the individual you with. If you have somebody could draw out some of those emotions from the beginning, I'm just saying. It's the level of questioning. It's the level of questioning that can draw out stuff that make you go places that you weren't planning on going.
But that's true. But when you meet
Sandra, I'll put it to each one of you ladies like this. In 1.5 hours, I can elicit everything I need from either one of you to decide if I want to continue to see you.
Because
I guarantee it.
No. Because my whole feeling is
I guarantee it. You want me to tell you why? Because I'm going to ask those questions that are going to make you do one or two things. They're going to make you uncomfortable in your reality, or you're going to rebuff them. And if you rebuff them, then I know I don't need to be with you.
That's one of 3 things. I answer
that
that right
now. And that's exactly my point. There's no need for us to continue because you're not comfortable within yourself.
Well, my question is this. When you first initially meet somebody, you don't want to feel like the interrogator. My God.
It's
ways.
I'm never thoughtful. I'm coming in like the FBI. I'm putting you under the butt lights. I got the microphone and the paper for the door.
I'm even conversate about that.
But that's what I'm getting at. If you're not comfortable,
that mean that's not the right person for you.
No. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is this. And I stress if you want to get to know about a person, why wait for 3 months to pass before you?
No, I ain't said 3 months. No. 30 days, you should know if you want to be with a person or not.
I can tell you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I can
tell you at the initial date.
So that's between the 30-day point and 2 weeks. If I get that vibe from you in 2 weeks under 30 days, but you got 30.
But there's the whole thing of a time period. Why put a time period on something that does not need it? And I stress it. If the conversation is going one way, then why try and redirect it another way? You don't dam a river up to go another way unless you have a reason for it. It's counterproductive. So if we're having a conversation and things are going the wrong way, you say, you know what, I like the way this is going, but I'm going to pull back. You're pulling back for a reason. Now, you may have a valid reason why. That's not to say it's wrong, but you have to answer within yourself as to why am I holding back when this seems to be working. That doesn't mean you have to take the next step and be intimate with that individual. You may not want to. You may not have that level of comfort, but you may have a level of comfort to where you say, you know what? I've established a good rapport with this person. This person is somebody who I can call, go out with, have a nice outing, and we can go our separate ways. And I think people underestimate, and you know what? I have to find that link and I'll post it in the watch party. I think people underestimate the value of having a friend, a confidant in the opposite gender.
Oh,
and you say that.
I always want to, I'm saying it for a reason, because I always felt, and I stand in my truth about this, that when I meet a gentleman, that that's my option. I mean, that's my alternative, to start off as a friend, to build a friendship. And if it should evolve into more, that's cool. But I've heard some men, at certain ages, women shouldn't be looking for friendships. They should be looking for more. But, I mean, how do you build a foundation when if you're not starting as friends? It's not like this person came into your life and said, baby, here I am, let's, whatever. So that's a question that puzzles me sometimes when I use the word friendship.
And I think
I agree. I mean, I like the idea of starting off as a friend. That gives you and me time to really get to know each other, know our perfections and imperfections, and just to see if it's quality time and it's a good quality time, that it could go beyond that.
Let me answer to that, and I think again, I think Herb mentioned it earlier, that I think we use the quantity of time as like the kind of to set the table on when certain things or certain conversations should happen. If you have a natural progression and it's comfortable, then you just got to let it flow. I think somebody, we always put a timetable on everything. Well, I only know this person for a few months, so that's not a friend. But somebody that's 20 years and they still not a friend. You always thought they were a friend just because you knew them for a certain amount of time. But excuse my language, but they ain't shit. They don't do anything for you. They don't add value to your life. They don't do anything to support you. You just knew them for 20 years. But you have someone else that you knew for 2 or 3 months, and in that time, they've shown you more loyalty and dedication than anything. Who's your real friend?
I agree on that.
So, listen, we over time. It's already set up for part 3. It's already set up. It's already set up for part 3 about this communication, this dating, and all of these type of questions on when and all that. And I might have to bring in my girls. Herb know who they are. Fine and Snyder, the gurus of the rules of dating. So, closing remarks. Sandra, what do you have to say to close out this conversation? No, maybe she jumped off.
Oh, for me, I'm looking forward to a part 3.
Okay. Any other things?
I think it's worthwhile having.
Okay. All right. Herb.
Kim Wilson, who likes to hide, I see. She mentions a couple things. She says it's not necessarily true. I think she's about referencing about opening up. She says it's not necessarily true about being hurt. Sometimes it's just about being cautious. Well, what are you being cautious to? That's something I'm going to address. That, and she says, I may not be ready to answer because it's not any of your business. So if it's not any of somebody's business, then why are you out with that individual? That individual is on a fact-finding mission. So if you're hiding information from somebody, then don't go out. Don't date that person. That's another thing that I'll address.
It's going to be a heat up part
Yeah, I
3.
think that's important because it hasn't happened. Well, it happened, but yet it didn't happen because I really didn't get to meet the guy. But when I questioned him and his longevity and not making a point and meeting me, and I even said to him, if I'm not your lady of choice, let me know. Because see, as a woman, for me, at my age, I don't have a problem in letting go. I really don't. And I have come to realization that every person isn't for everybody. So I don't know about some men. As much as I miss being in a relationship at this point in my life, I just refuse to settle for less what I'm deserving of. I'm sorry. And if that sounds a little bit cocky, yeah.
So be it. That's how you feel.
Yeah, so.
All right. So again, you can't devalue or undervalue the power of these conversations. As we all all getting older. You're in relationships, you're ending relationships, you want to know how to move forward. We have to talk about this stuff. We have to talk about this stuff, and you have to have an open platform and dialogue to talk about it. You cannot continue talking to your same friends that you know for 30 years and they always been in miserable relationships. That's not working. That's not a good point of reference. So you have to find out from other people in other ways and different avenues on how to move forward. Part 3 will be epic because now we're getting into that dating part, and people not giving their all or withholding information or not feeling comfortable. And as Herbert said, we have to find out why you're not comfortable, what's really good, why are you wasting this person's time. So we're gonna come back, part 3. Can't wait. It's gonna be epic. Thank you all for tuning in. Sandra, Marcia, my man Herbert. We'll be back next week. Stay tuned for the post. Stay tuned throughout the rest of the week for the watch parties. And I want to definitely wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Be good. Will be great. Have a good time. Be safe. Furthermore, be safe.
Yeah.
And that's the key. And also, I gotta, you get all these type of alerts, but throughout. But again, I know that this stuff is going down. Be careful during this time who you open your doors to. Be careful when you out shopping, Black Friday, and it's dark and you see those white rape vans and all that stuff. Be conscious of what's going on. The people is they're in grind mode now, and the people that was sitting around, they ready to come out. Wherever they coming from, a cave or whatever they at, they ready to attack. So you have to be prepared. So that's the number one thing. Just be safe. Have a blessed holiday, and everybody be safe. I'm out. See y'all next week. It's gonna be epic. Part 3. Tell a friend. It's about to go down. All right, good people. I'm out. Peace.